A husband cheated on his wife while in prison and how she found out. That's what we're going to be going through today. Honestly, when I picked this up, I thought if there was ever a demographic that would struggle to cheat, it would be prisoners. But apparently, I couldn't be more wrong. This story relates to You Know Who I Am 381's experiences. She has multiple videos on this, so I condensed it down for you guys. For storytelling's sake, I'm going to call her Ella and her husband Troy. So Ella and Troy met in high school and first started dating in 2013. Their relationship was on and off since. In 2017, he is imprisoned while she is 6 months pregnant with their child. 2 months later, she gives birth to their son. While he was in county jail, she visited him whenever possible, basically every weekend, doing everything she could to keep their family together. But when COVID-19 hit, they couldn't visit anymore. In early 2022, he is transferred from county jail to prison, but months passed before she could visit him again. Her son at this point is 3 years old. He is autistic and non-verbal, so the thought of doing, a long car ride to visit him in prison was really tough. So she needed to make sure that her son could communicate her needs before doing this, so he could communicate if he was hungry or needed the bathroom. Finally, by late 2022, she makes the trip to see her husband. When she saw him for the first time in so long, everything came rushing back. She fell in love with him all over again, and after that, she just couldn't imagine going so long without seeing him again. So they began visiting as much as possible. Well, she visits him, making a point to go during holidays and around his birthday despite that distance. So by May 2023, they decide to get married, and this wasn't an easy decision because she didn't want to rush into this just because he was incarcerated. She needed to know it was something that he really wanted, and he wasn't just doing it because of his situation. So she had no doubts about her feelings whatsoever. She loved him deeply and she was just ready to spend her life with him. But she needed to be sure that he felt the same. When they finally marry, she was really happy, but the challenges were hard. He's 7 hours away from her. She's the sole provider for their son. Life is expensive. I think we've all felt that during the pandemic, post-pandemic, grocery bills. Everything's just much more expensive. So it wasn't easy for her to sustain her child and herself and make those trips as often as she wanted. But she tried to make it happen because she loved him and she wanted for it to work out. In September 2023, they finally receive a date for their family visit, and she was beyond excited. She packs all her bags, and her mother and her son's godmother come along for the trip. So while she was with her husband, her mother and son's godmother planned to explore the area. It was supposed to be this special time together as a family. The family visit was scheduled for a Tuesday, and they planned to stay through Thursday, and then afterwards they'd stay around the area so they could also visit him over the weekend during regular visiting hours. But when they arrive in prison, something unexpected happens. 2 officers from IGI, who are like this internal prison police, approach her. They told her they needed to speak with her privately and asked her if her mother could watch her son. She follows them, and lots is going through her head because she knows she hasn't done anything wrong, but still it's a bit weird. They took her to a separate building, sat her down, and get her to sign consent forms for a search. She looks to the side and can see that they have this pile of papers, and they seem to have conversations written on it. The officers say they noticed that she had multiple GTL accounts, and GTL accounts, from her explanation, is a system they use to communicate with inmates. So they found this suspicious, and she told them that she'd made new accounts after her husband had blocked her, and she was desperate to maintain contact. She had 3 different accounts and basically told them, you can read all the messages, there's nothing wrong there. They then dropped the bombshell that we're all waiting for, which is, you do know your husband has been speaking to other women, right? And at that moment, her world just comes crashing down. She's crying. She's telling them she doesn't know that. She still signs the consent forms anyway. 2 female officers then come and take her to the bathroom for the search. At this point, she's still crying, still reeling over what she's just discovered. And the officers that are kind of doing the search think it's because of the search and apologize, saying, this happens all the time. But she basically tells them she's crying not because of the search, but because she just found out her husband is cheating on her. After the search, she goes back to the room and they continue to tell her more about this other woman. They start showing her pictures and being a bit mocking, saying stuff like, that's not your butt, while she's crying. Some of these pictures are blurred out because they're so explicit. They also show her conversations, which weren't the type you would have if you were just, messing around. In these conversations, her husband is saying stuff like he loves this other woman and would want to be together with her one day. To make the situation even worse, one of the officers then points out her fresh tattoo. Basically, Ella has just recently gotten her husband's name inked above her knee. Here she is, bawling her eyes out, and they allegedly continue to show her stuff and make those wildly inappropriate comments. They then ask her, what other names do you know? Implying that there's more than just one, other woman. So they continue kind of showing her stuff from this, first woman, basically showing the woman's name on the messaging app, which was Roxy Martinez. She later finds out this is not her real name. They show her a pic of her face, which wasn't blurred out, and she didn't recognize this Roxy Martinez. They even showed her messages with this woman dating back to when he first got in prison. So this is something that's been going on for ages. And her initial thought is like, poor girl. Here her husband is deceiving this poor girl, making her think he is in love with her, but he still married her, Ella. So she realizes this woman also tried to add her multiple times on social media for months, but she kept rejecting this woman, Roxy, thinking it was just the cops trying to get information from her. She then also figures out that this woman had given birth to his baby in May 2023, which is the same exact month they got married. So now stuff is making sense to her. He was acting strangely around their wedding day and around getting married in that month. He kind of claimed he didn't want their marriage to overshadow his birthday. So she's kind of like connecting the dots and realizing it's not really his birthday he was worried about. It was the fact that he was going to deliver another baby with another woman. So this other woman, Roxy's baby, is now about a year and a half at the point that she's telling this story. And apparently Roxy also has an older son and apparently also has a spouse. So she's super shocked about all this. She kind of tries to reconcile with her husband because they've been together for so long. Her husband says, you know, this woman was just a pastime, that he just wanted Roxy for the saucy pictures, that he didn't love her. So yeah, despite all that, Ella tries to work things out with him. She knows it sounds crazy, but she just wasn't ready to let go. However, she also finds out that he reaches out to Roxy again to wish her happy birthday, and coincidentally Roxy's birthday month is the same as Ella's. She also obtains Roxy's number, so he gives it to her. She tries calling, figuring out what's going on, but despite Roxy having tried numerous times reaching out to her through social media, she now doesn't want anything to do with her apparently. She doesn't answer the calls, she deletes social media. So basically Ella tries to do some stuff to provoke Roxy into talking, like allegedly posting Roxy's nail salon on her husband's social media. Roxy then messages Ella back, and apparently she's all proud of this issue. She calls Ella dumb for telling people what her husband did, and she's shocked because, you know, this woman Roxy has kids and a husband, so how could she be reacting this way? Roxy then tells her about another woman. Yes, there is another woman who's about 25 years old, so like 7 years younger than her husband. So at this point, you know, Ella's just crushed. He was her best friend, love of her life. They had an over 10-year relationship. He's a dad of her son, but she knows she deserves better. So the story kind of ends with she's leaving her husband, she's going through the divorce process and just trying to move forward. Now I looked at some of the comments because this is a bit of a crazy story, and especially because I was here just thinking, you know, prisoners surely would find it hard to cheat, right? There's not that many women in prison. But I don't know, the comments kind of dissuaded me of this. So the first one we see here says, was it Ash Trevino? Now I don't know who this was, but after looking at it, I now understand what they mean.
You haven't heard of Ashley M.A. Hopper?
I mean, the name speaks for itself.
Okay, so this is like my 5th page I've had on TikTok. That's a big page.
Okay.
I actually married somebody who was incarcerated in 2019.
Okay.
We actually knew each other from out here, though, and he's actually younger than me, so we reconnected, and I became his prison wife. And that's where I met a lot of the people that I talked to still. And it just went from there. When we separated, I got with another one, and then it just went on.
So yeah, Ash Trevino apparently is she seems to have dated quite a lot of prisoners. So she seems to, I don't know, maybe like it. There's something maybe enjoyable about it for her. So yeah, prison wives seem to be a thing. I had heard previously of like women sending letters to prisoners, and I don't know, maybe it's the bad boy aura that appeals. I don't know. Then there's another comment that says, wait, how does a prisoner cheat? Exactly my initial thoughts. And other people kind of reply, yeah, they got nothing but time, they all do it. And then someone else kind of says, with inmates and guards, other people talking about, haven't you heard of Prison Wife, even on police TV shows? And one of them even says, yes, my ex cheated with 2 guards and then had visits from other women. I mean, wow, who would have thought this in prison? I always just thought, you know, prisoners would want to maintain all their outside relationships because it's so hard to create new ones when you are incarcerated, obviously, because you don't have the opportunity. You're stuck in basically a box. So yeah, that's me learning something new today. What are your thoughts on this? Have you ever heard of any other wild stories to do with prisoners cheating? Is it really that common of a thing? And if you enjoyed this, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe or follow.